literally across the street near the building near the billboard, the little building across the street.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
There's one.
I call to order this meeting of the Southfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. The first item on the agenda is the minutes from the October 17th meeting.
Move they be approved.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the classification of property for the Southfield District tax rate. Do you have a motion to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing for the classification of property for Southfield District tax.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. I will turn it over to Eric to walk us through our information this evening.
So, good evening. I did check with the Department of Revenue. There's a chance that if we need to get further into the details of it today, we would have had to postpone this for a later time. But I wanted to make sure, because of the fact that it's just a classification hearing, that we could just vote that. And they said that's really all that the actual legal purpose of this is. And as you have done before, at least most of you have, you've decided on a factor of 1, which means you're not going to grant any higher or lower amounts to either the residential or the commercial properties. So what we're looking for is a motion and a vote on a factor of 1 with no exemptions. And I know in the past you've asked us to keep the tax rate at 50 cents. And I'm assuming that's what you're looking for me to back into just for information purposes. I'm assuming that's what you're looking to do.
I think we had 1 year at 54 cents maybe, but we've tried to keep it at 50 the last couple of years if possible.
But all I really need tonight is a motion to have a residential factor of 1 with no exemptions.
I'll make a motion to have a residential, or rather a tax classification of 1 with no exemptions.
I'll second that motion. Discussion from the board.
Public
Public
comment.
comment.
Yeah.
Any public comment?
Jeff Wall, Weymouth.
You just,
You just took a vote before public comment?
We didn't close.
Oh, you didn't close it?
We
Okay.
took a motion.
You just took a motion? Okay. What's the dollar amount that's raised annually on the tax base here?
We actually have not got values from Weymouth, Abington, or Rockland yet.
Well,
Last
what were
year,
last year?
last year we raised approximately $135,000.
On both,
with a
all 3
30%
towns?
rate, yeah. I expect it to go up some this year, but we're not talking a typical town where you raise tens of millions of dollars.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Joseph Shea, 3 Wyman Road, Abington. I'm the advisory board, but also a former elected assessor, and now working in the Abington Assessor's Office. I would suggest you go with 1 rate, a single rate, in order to attract more business and commercial in here. Anything else would send a message that they would be concerned about the tax rate. So I would recommend 1 single rate.
And that is what your motion is.
That's what that's our motion and that's what we.
Joe wasn't here when we
Got
were
it.
talking about it.
Just being sure.
Yep, thank you. Seeing no comment, is there any comment from the board before we take a vote this evening?
I move we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor of the motion to set the tax rate to a factor of 1 with no exemptions?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. The next item on our agenda for this evening is a Conservation Commission Certificate of Compliance for the Patriot Parkway project. The board had received the supporting materials in advance of the meeting. It's in the binders. Jim, do you have any comments for us on this? Compliance?
As you know, the Patriot Parkway has been open for 2 years. We've given it some time to ensure that particularly the drainage basins are functioning properly and are stabilized accordingly. We've conducted a recent inspection and confirmed that everything is in order. We received the project as-built that were required as part of moving the certificate of compliance forward. And so at this time, we're recommending closing out the order of conditions for the Patriot Parkway.
Any questions from the board? I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the Patriot Parkway project, Mass DEP file number SE081-1168.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. The next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report with the FY19 budget amendments.
Hi, me again. So you had originally voted for FY19 a budget of $2,215,550. We are looking at currently, the state is talking to us, both A&F and Department of Revenue, about the Parkway bond and making a payment on it this year. At this point, there's been no adjustment and no waiver of that bond payment. We're heading into the tax rate recap that I'm gonna have to put together with page 4. And they're gonna be looking for both of these bonds to be included on there. We probably will not settle this out with the state as far as what the final figure, or if they'll waive it, till after the tax rate has to be set. My suggestion is that we vote the amendment to add it in now. I know that on the revenue side, this would be a dramatic increase for the developer fees, but I suggest that we hold off on any increase charged to them until we get the yay or the nay against whether or not we're gonna get a discount or a waiver on that bond. But in the meantime, I'd like to, if you would, make a motion on a few different changes. One is a $1,500 discount from the annual audit based on the agreement that we have with Lynch Marini, which includes still in the number that I have amended, an amount for other items that they may charge for, such as production of different documents that they're sending to various banks and things like that, as well as an increase to payroll services. It looks like the payroll services will be somewhere around $1,500 this year. I'm leaving some leeway on that for end of year costs. And then the last item would be the increase for the East-West Parkway bonds, and the amount for that is $1,692,350. This changes the entire budget from $2,215,550 to $3,900,900. And you typically vote the sections. So if you were gonna vote this, you would amend, like the board of directors to $72,500, general administration to $260,700, and then debt to $2,837,850, if you were to keep it consistent with what you've done in the past.
Paul, do we have any updates on where we are with discussions on the state on that bond, and or any additional thoughts from you on this action?
Parkway bond, and we've been in touch with the state. I think it looks good going forward. I think there's been expenditures that we can use to offset some of the costs, so it's not like the fund's gonna be out there. But we have to have more serious face-to-face discussions, which I believe we probably have to in December.
And we can amend this down and charge less to the developer for fees once we get past the beginning of the year. It's just at this point in time, that's the amount of the bond payment this year. As far as our agreement, it is due this year. It should be included in the budget, and we'll just take it into consideration when we bill for developer fees. That just may not be an issue for the first billing, and we'll waive it off till the second billing of the year to them, based on what it is. I also think it's prudent that we let the master developer know when they're here tonight, that this could actually come to fruition as a, you know, a payment anywhere from zero from the waiver up to this amount, so they should be made aware of it, and it should be part of our fiscal budget.
And that's the max exposure at this point?
Absolutely, yes.
What's
Wait, I shouldn't say that. There is actually, we've been waived now for 4 years. Last time we did anything with them was 2013. They could actually tack on more for that, but at this point in time, I think it would be prudent just to put the amount of the bond payment that's due this year in there. We may have, we know we're gonna have some mitigating factors that will reduce it because of the fact of new tax revenue. But it might be offset by the amount that they ask us for the other items. So at this point in time, the only concrete number that we have is the bond payment.
1.7.
What's the date of that payment for, subject to, that's, you know, assuming that is not subject to further discussion or mitigation?
Well,
we owe that money.
the date of the payment is the last day of the year. The reason being that is the fact that this is not our debt. Originally, this is actually the state's debt. We have the agreement to pay the state back, and typically they do it on the last day of the year or the first day of the year. As it is written right now, it's the last day of this year that puts it in this budget.
So June 30th?
Which gives us plenty of time, as I said, to figure out where we are before we go to the developers and say, listen, the fee is not this.
I think part of the reason we want to carry it this way is it is a liability for us. But so the auditors are here, but we're not showing it as a liability. So we have to be included to be able to show it, but as it relates to sort of the developer fees, we wouldn't change the collection method right now, which is to just focus on the operating side of the budget on a quarterly basis. So we would have time to negotiate that deficiency payment, maybe it's zero, I mean, that's hopeful. But if it's not, then the pass-through developer could be one lump sum, and they could line that up with a sale of property or something. So I think it's a way for us to carry the liability, the way the auditors want us to do that. But to not really change things materially, but also to provide an incentive to make sure that we're reporting.
It's visual.
Yeah, everything that is we're doing is being recorded, because we can use it to offset that deficiency payment.
And we have been working with the master developer. They've been very cooperative in starting to get together the information that we need to reduce not only the current payment, but the payments for the past years.
So you need individual motions for each change to the total being board of directors, general administrator.
Correct. Yes, thank you.
Correct. I'll make a motion to adjust the board of directors by a $1,500 reduction to $72,500 in the amended budget.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. I'll make a motion to increase the general administration budget by $1,500 to cover payroll expenses, bringing us to a total of $260,700 in the amended line item in the budget.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. I will make a motion to increase the debt line item for the East-West Parkway bond by an amount of a liability of $1,692,350,000.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous.
Can you vote the total of the debt for that, the $2,837,850, because that's how you vote?
Yep, you're right.
Thank you.
I was thinking of the small item. So the revised line item number for the debt is $2,837,850. Motion to accept that as the line item debt.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous.
So
So just as a matter of clarification, those other items that are sitting before us have been previously voted, and we don't need any action on them tonight.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the next item is other post-employment benefits. As it is now, we have already established an account previously that the money has been put into. It's got approximately $50,000 in it currently. When we went through the audit this time, the auditors said that we are not in compliance because we did not have a trust fund officially voted and set up. And I spoke with Parker Elmer from Odyssey Advisors, and he gave me guidance on what it is that we need to actually adopt. And we need to adopt Chapter 32B, Section 20, and with the adoption of that, you actually have to appoint a designee to be the trustee, or a board to be the trustee. In Rockland and several other towns I've seen, the treasurer, since they already handle the actual funds, typically is given that post. But I'm open to whoever you want to have work with that. It does give some leeway in order to be able to invest in items other than the standard type of items that you'd see a government invest in. But personally myself, I tend to be very conservative. So for me, I would think that the most risky thing that I would do is honestly a certificate of deposit, quite frankly.
Are you required to be bonded on that? I would assume yes.
I'm already bonded.
Okay.
Because I'm the treasurer, which kind of gives us.
No, I mean the fund itself, not you as an individual. A lot of times, does it work the same way with state and federal pieces? When I'm dealing with different funds and retirement funds, the actual fund itself has to be bonded.
No, I'm not aware of any of that. I didn't see any of that in this law either, nor did Parker Elmer or the auditors make me aware of that.
State will,
Yeah.
private ones. So.
I think we're set with just this, but I will follow up on that as a question to Odyssey Advisors.
A follow-up question, this was not identified as a weakness in prior audits?
No. And as I had told you about the audit previously, you will see more in this audit. And they'll be coming forward with some other items. I told you that there'd be some qualifications for items that have been, let's say, just neglected.
So there's no reason this wasn't done before, other than it was just neglected?
Yeah, this was just, it was just neglected.
So what was done with the money before?
It is in a separate account. I think it's equitable that it's in, and it's just sitting there. But in order to actually make this an official trust fund and to qualify to be in compliance with GASB 75, we need to adopt this general law, 32B, Section 20. And designate either myself or somebody, or decide on a board to oversee that item.
So that the election of the trustee is required to fund the trust, but ultimately we can change that election at any time, presumably.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's totally up to you.
In the perfect world, our org chart would cover that if we had
More than 3 employees.
It would be a very small chart.
I like small charts.
Currently, I am the only one bonded. I suggest, adopt it, make me the current trustee, and then discuss, at a later date, and we can set somebody up and get them bonded if you'd like to do something.
So motion to push it to the treasurer's position at this point in time.
Any further questions or discussion from the board on this? I will make a motion to adopt MGL Chapter 32B, Section 20, and to appoint the treasurer of the redevelopment authority as the trustee of this account.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
The next item on the agenda is the executive director's report, focusing on the redevelopment plan, and I think that both Paul and potentially All-Star have some information for us to share there.
We'll continue to roll along the redevelopment plan. It seems to be coming together. We've got a GIS sort of web interface, so we'll be able to share it with everybody. It'll be transparent and outward facing when we finish that. But the real work is in scrubbing those projection numbers. So Jim and Tom Berkeley and Eric have been engaged in the details of that. And I think we feel pretty good about it. We've talked to our economic consultant, RKG, we had a phone call with them today. And I think we're going to get a really good report out of them. It's going to be substantial, and I will ask them to come down and present that to the board directly in case any members have questions. Having said that, I wanted to yield some of my time to L-Star, maybe give a brief update from their perspective.
Hey, Paul, real quickly, when is the report due? 10:30.
We, in discussions with the state, they'd like to see it before the end of the calendar year.
Thanks, Paul. For the record, Tom Berkeley with All-Star. Real briefly, we continue to make progress on sort of larger issues that I think we brought up the last time, and I know the executive director and All-Star, we've been working together. But on sort of a granular level, we have tremendous interest on the residential and commercial side. We have several residential agreements that we're working on that will likely close, hopefully one between now and the end of the year, and maybe a few in the first quarter of next year, which will, I think, really make a big difference in and around the Northern Gateway. Some of these I discussed a few months ago and gave an update to the board. So we're excited about that. There's a tremendous interest, continued interest despite some of the negative things that have been out there in the town center, Hangar Square, so we continue to make a lot of progress with commercial and mixed-use developers. That area, those deals will likely get sort of codified in the next few months, and hopefully groundbreaking later next year. Pro Drive continues to move forward. We continue to have weekly calls with them. They're finishing up their GMP to get sort of everything lined up. Whether or not they break ground, probably mid-December will be weather dependent, frankly. I think at this point, if it kicks into, depending on the weather to next year, but they're committed to move forward. We're committed to continue to move that forward, so that's exciting. So a lot of activity. We're excited to get some deals done and to get some groundbreakings happening in the next several months. So thank you.
Great. And just finally, just to notify the board, there was an open meeting law complaint that was filed back in June. It had to do with some of our release of the executive session minutes, and received in the mail today. And we found that the board did not violate the open meeting law.
Thank you very much. I have no additional topics this evening. I'll open to public comment on issues discussed at tonight's meeting.
Good evening, Robert Wong, appointed director for the town. I'm Paul, through you, Madam Chairperson. Could I get a little bit more explanation on the East-West Parkway bond? Is that backed by the full faith of the Commonwealth, or what is SRA? Is it their good faith that backs that bond? I was a little bit confused in the discussion on that.
Yeah, the Parkway bond is sort of a Mass Development Finance Authority bond as part of their IQ program, so it's a performance bond. So the Commonwealth issues the bond for $30 million, and it's really the Commonwealth's obligation. They're the ones that are making payments. But as part of the IQ program, they do that by entering into sort of a contractual relationship with a public entity that's trying to promote economic development, bring new state growth in. And the details of the contract in a very simple way is if the new state revenue is more than the amount you would owe for debt service in a year, then you don't have to pay anything. So that's where that loan is out there. And ultimately, it's the SRA's responsibility. As part of the DDA, we pass that cost through to the master developer. But we haven't had to pay anything yet.
Yeah, this is the bond. It predates this board, but we just haven't had to pay on it yet. We've known since the inception and even through the legislative change that the first payment would be due in 2019 if certain metrics weren't met. So it's something we've worked with both iterations of the master developer with since our board was formed, trying to work toward getting those net new revenue numbers, and we had sort of a plan at one point to do it, but obviously it hasn't come to fruition, so we're significantly below where we need to be, and that puts us in a place where payment may be due this year. The state's expressed willingness to negotiate with us on it, but I think that they wanna see that things are going to happen at some point and see that tangible things are happening before they commit to giving additional deferrals on it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Joseph Shea, 3 Wyman Road, Abington. Concern I've had the last couple of meetings, and it's been increased because I've been on the policy airbase for many years, and I'm getting people stopping me and saying, what is happening on the airbase? They see the stories in the paper, the most recent one over the weekend about L-Star being sued by some of its employees for non-payment. They're asking, what is the status on the situation? What is the relationship at this point between L-Star and the board of directors? At one point, I thought there was going to be an update by L-Star on the overall situation. That has not happened yet, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I can see, what is the board's position?
Paul and I have continued to be in open communication with All-Star as they work to resolve some of these issues, but candidly, we share your concern and agree that we need to see within the next few weeks some real movement to see that development's happening back here. I think that we're still in the same situation where development really can't happen right now under the various legal issues. We asked specifically about payroll because we were concerned if there were employees who weren't being paid, and I believe that all of those payments were made last Friday, so All-Star is current on their payroll. So I think Paul and I have been asking the questions, and I can't say that we're getting all the answers that we would like to get, but we are getting sort of open information from the developer to the extent they're able to provide it. Paul, anything to add?
Yeah, we've been working closely with the local leadership from L-Star in a very positive way. We're trying to work together for the best possible outcome. But private corporations are private corporations, and they're not as transparent as public agencies. So that sometimes makes it more difficult. But I think we're making progress, and I'm sure that we will know something more definitive before the end of the calendar year.
As was discussed at the last meeting, the concerns are more than just the payroll. That's to take care of, that's fine. But at the last meeting, the impression I had is the work on the MEPA project document had been stopped for several months, evidently because of problems between L-Star and their consultants, which I assume means no payments. And then the connection on the water from Route 18 into Trotter Road had been stopped because probably the same issue, which is in my mind is a public safety issue. At some point, will the board take a position?
Yes.
Yes. Tom, if you have any update,
Yeah,
you're
I
welcome
don't.
to share it.
My update is the same as it was at the last meeting with respect to the several issues that this gentleman has raised.
I think the board needs, or at the next meeting, to make a statement. I think that
We are working on that. We're seeking outside legal advice to help us come to what exactly the best possible move for us is, and we're trying to balance that while being mindful of knowing that any action that we take will affect the project in some ways, whether positive or negative. We want to be sure that we're taking the right action that fulfills all of our obligations under the DDA, all of our obligations under the legislation, and perhaps most importantly, our obligations to the 3 towns to make sure that we are placing this project in a position to continue, hopefully to move forward with some good momentum, to break ground on Pro Drive and to bring revenue, not in 30 years, but hopefully within sort of this development cycle to the towns. And so we're seeking outside financial advice, outside legal advice to put things in place. And it is, I know that this is probably not a satisfying answer, but it's something that I think about, my other board members think about, and work on, and Paul and Eric and Jim are working on every single day. And I know that it's something that Jerry and Tom are working on and thinking about every single day. And I don't think anyone wants to be in the position that we're in right now, but we are trying to come up with the best course of action. And I do hope that at our next meeting, we have a more robust answer and we have come to the place where we've concluded what we need to do as a board in order to help move this project forward.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, Mary, yes.
I have one because my concern is the court said that they can't sell any assets that are over and above $25,000. And you have Mayor Headland in the newspaper stating that he has someone that can finance the whole thing, a new master developer or whatever, and just what's the real deal? You got water and sewer, and that agreement with Weymouth is up now, and then you've got a payment to the Navy come December.
My answer to that would be the same answer that I just gave, and I understand that that doesn't give substantive answers to each of the points that you raised. Those are issues that we're thinking about and hoping to have an answer on. I would imagine that any potential sources of funding will take some time, and I don't think there are any public announcements on that so far. The the injunction you referred to with the $25,000 would only be lifted if that litigation were resolved. I would presume that part of a funding solution would be looking to resolve that lawsuit. And once that lawsuit is resolved, that injunction would be lifted pretty much instantaneously. So that would solve the transaction problem. But that's my speculation, and we don't have any concrete information on that investment yet. L-Star has told Paul and has told me that they hope to have a more robust update for that and for us on that in the coming weeks. And I'm sure once that news is here, they'll be happy to share it in public meeting as well. Seeing no more comments, I will make a motion to enter into executive session for two purposes. One, to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and I've determined that the discussion that we have for this evening would have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigating position if we had it in public. And second, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. And our executive session plan is to reconvene in open session.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 We'll now convene an executive session. We'll have this first child, tonight, Harper Marie.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, we are now reconvened in open session. I would like to make a motion to authorize the executive director to engage legal counsel and to work with them to draft legal documents for the board related to contingency planning as to the master developer and the future status of the development.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? That's unanimous. Any further public comment? Seeing none, yes?
Could you say a little bit about the contingency plan?
I don't think that there's any non-privileged information from that meeting that's appropriate to share at this point. We're considering our legal options, and there's nothing public to share at this point. The board has also decided that given sort of the All-Stars representations, that they'll be able to give us some information in the coming weeks, and also mindful of the fact that we'll need to continue to have our finger on the pulse of taking the appropriate actions for the project, that our next two meetings will be on Wednesday, November 28th, rather than canceling our Thanksgiving week meeting, we're moving it a week later. And then the meeting after that will be just 1 week later on Wednesday, December 5th, and they'll both be at 7 p.m. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous.